Thanks for joining me. I'm Sarah with Ruffles and Rain Boots, and today we're going to be working on shadowing our hand lettering. And we're just going to use a couple of supplies. We're going to use the Tombow dual tips, and we're going to use the twin tones. And then the very last example I'm going to show you, I'll show you three, I'll be using a micron. Okay, so very quickly you can see there's lots of bumps and bruises in this, but I wanted to quickly show you a couple of different ways to letter the shadowing. Okay, so I'm gonna quickly kind of fix this stuff here. Sorry, that's what happens when you letter quickly. All right, so here I just used the thick end of the dual brush pen, and then I'm going to take this twin tone. You can see this is also from Tombow. There's a small micron tip, and then there's this larger marker tip, and I'm going to show you how to shadow with this larger marker tip. Now, sometimes you can use, it's a little bit thicker than the other end of a dual tip from Tombow, but you can also use the dual tips from Tombow. If you just want to go over it once or twice, it'll be fine. But what we're doing is we're using a same color and we're darkening the edge of our lettering. So I'm using a light source that's about at 10 o'clock, but I like also using a light source at 2 o'clock, so it shifts the shadows the other way, just depending on the piece that you're writing. Okay, so after we've lettered, and then we've also outlined the inner shadow with the same color marker, we're going to add, I think this is the N75, which is a gray from the grayscale set from Tombow. I love that grayscale set from Tombow, by the way. It is one of my favorites. I've used it so much. I didn't think I would, but it's actually really, really fun to use. So anyway, what I'm going to do is just use a single color of gray on this example. I'll show you something else a little bit later, but I'll add these shadows all through, right under what I did with the same color marker. And then that's it basically. Obviously you're going to do this a lot slower, and obviously you're going to take your time when you're practicing these, but I just wanted to quickly show you a couple of examples. All right, so the next example that we're going to do, we're also going to just letter the word hi really quickly, and we're going to clean that up, but we're also going to, wow, see, this is what happens. Got to take your time when you letter. I was on my way to the movies to go see The Grinch with my daughter and husband, and Benedict Cumberbatch was calling, folks. Okay, so quick hand lettering practice right here. Okay, so now that we've laid down our color, we're going to, instead of adding additional shadow here, we're going to start with the gray. And what I'm doing is adding the N75, which is the darker of the two that I'll be using for these. And that is just the N75 from Tombow. And I'm going right outside of the color. And again, just my light source is again at 10 o'clock. And we're going to lay down all the, little bit of this color. We're actually also going to go over it a second time. And I'm going to show you in the next example, I'll show you why this really packs a powerful punch. I did another example for you pretty slow and then just sped it up so that you can see how I would actually hand letter some shadows for an art piece. Okay, so here you can see we've darkened it up a little bit, and we've even included it on our little dots of our eyes. And now I'm going to show you, this is the thick end. Now, just FYI, you're going to want to let it dry before you do this, but again, Benedict Cumberbatch. So this is the thick end of our dual tone, Tombow dual tone, and I'm going to use it. It adds a very powerful punch with regards to shadowing. It's great when you're making an art piece that's going to be up on the wall because it's very bold. I mean, you can't mistake this. Now listen, you have to go a lot slower than I'm going right now. I've made so many mistakes, but do you see, this really pops, and when you hold it far away, it is powerful. Okay, so now this is my example of what I would do. I would really letter this way. I would add the shadows the way I would use the tools. I'm gonna mess up this U a little bit. It's too wide, but it's okay because again, this is not for a piece. This was just me practicing my shadows. And if you're part of the Ruffles and Rain Boots newsletter, you know that I love practicing hand lettering. It is one of my most calming activities. Okay, so here we are. You can see I'm adding, this is the N75, so this is the darker of the grays, and I'm just using that big tip there to add a little bit of shadow. And you can see that when I really letter shadows, I'm adding, if it's a thicker stroke section, then I add a thicker stroke shadow. If it's a really thin stroke, then I add a thin stroke shadow. So you can see I add a little bit of depth and deepen up the color quite a bit throughout this, because I like, we're going to use the N75, which is the one we're using right now, and then I like to add the N95, which is just a lighter color, and you'll see by layering these, it's going to give it quite a bit of depth, and that's before we ever add in a micron pen. And again, you can use the very small side of the twin tone if you have those from Tombow, or if you have the mono drawing pens from Tombow, you can use like a 1 or a 3 would be perfect to do exactly what I'm doing here. I think the micron that I'm using here is a 3. I'm pretty sure it's a 3. So here we go. We're just finishing up this letter. I always forget the underside of E's, by the way, not that little underside, but the one up top, always. So I often will go over my prints quite a few times and still find the fact that the poor little E's were left without a shadow. So don't forget your shadows, and don't forget when you do your overlaps, add shadows in there. It really does help it pop. And when you darken it everywhere else, darken it under there as well. So here we go. We're gonna just clean this up a little bit, darken, darken, darken. And now we're gonna move on to our N95, which is just a lighter gray. Like I said, you can use any of them. I really do like that grayscale set from Tombow, and I find that I use it quite a bit just for random stuff, not just shadowing my lettering. Okay, now we're just cleaning this little bit up because I'm sometimes a perfectionist and I go over stuff a little too much. By the way, I'm using watercolor papers, 140-pound Strathmore, I think, and I just really like it. Okay, so now we take our N95 and we very, very, very lightly go through, just kind of maybe even overlapping our dark gray, but this is just something you're putting a very quick, very light, thin, usually, little shadow on, and it's super powerful. I can't explain to you in person. This thing is probably the best looking shadowing that I do in my practice. Okay, so this one goes a lot faster than the first one, because this one you're just basically tracing that first one. Okay, so you would let this dry, but again, I'm impatient and we have the magic of TV. So I am going to show you how I do the micron. So there, oh, it is the 0.3, good to know. So we're gonna take the micron 3 and then we're just going to go right over the edge of our gray. As you can see, we're just going to really lightly go through, and this is drawing, right? When you're adding shadows, it's mostly like you're drawing. You're not really lettering, so don't really apply the rules of lettering. You pick up your pen as many times as you can, go the wrong way, all of those things that people tell you not to do. So you can see I messed up there because normally I bring it down, so I bring it towards me, but you get in the habit of lettering and lettering quickly, and that's what happens. Okay, so as you can see, you can really start it, seeing it, but it's kind of getting lost a little bit. The lighter gray is kind of getting lost a little bit in this, but when you see these in person, they are amazing because it's like depth. There's a lot of dimension to each of these. Okay, so that's it for our shadowing tutorial. I'm going to show you a couple more examples here, and see, you can see I mess up. Okay, so please like and subscribe Ruffles and Rain Boots for more hand lettering fun, and be sure to visit the shop. I have lots of practice for you there. Thanks, and have a great day.